Alright guys, second video of the day. I hope you guys caught my 100,000 subscriber video. I'm doing 10 giveaways on that video, so if you haven't caught it, please go catch it. It's a worldwide giveaway, by the way. And I'm sending out all the gifts, 10 of them, to 10 lucky subscribers of this channel. But today on the second video, I'm doing a review of two new fragrances from the house of imaginary authors. So we have a whiff of a waffle cone and also Decisions. I'm gonna let you know about both these fragrances honestly and how I experience them coming right up. Thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sebastian with Smelling Great Fragrance Reviews. Today I'm talking about imaginary authors. As I said, I'm a fan of imaginary authors fragrances, and I was curious about these fragrances. I first heard about a whiff of a waffle cone, and I was excited about it because I noticed that it was going in the gourmand direction. I love gourmands. I jumped right at it. Unfortunately, it was sold out, but then all of a sudden it was back in stock. Later I learned about Decisions. And so I decided to take action on that one as well. So these fragrances were purchased by me, and I'm going to tell you what I think about them honestly. And of course, when I do sponsored videos, of course, I generally work with a brand to sponsor a giveaway as well. So in today's video, these are my honest opinions. And I do enjoy imaginary authors. I really like what their fragrances are all about. I like the fact that they're a indie niche house selling fragrances under $100, and some of them I'm really big fans of. But am I fans of these two fragrances? I'm going to let you know what I think about them. But before I do that, if this is your first time tuning into my channel and you still haven't subscribed, please do click the subscribe button below and also click the bell so you'll be notified for future videos and giveaways. And as I said, once again, if you haven't caught my first video thanking everyone to be a subscriber of this channel after making 100,000 subscribers, please do go catch that video. There are 10 giveaways in that video. That's one of two videos I'll be doing for my 100,000 subscriber accomplishment. So anyway, imaginary authors, a whiff of a waffle cone is this particular fragrance. It comes in a box like this. I'm going to show you the box because imaginary authors has changed things around a bit. Inside it is where the fragrance sits, right there. And of course, there's also a sample in there in addition to the bottle. And it's like a book, right? These are all fragrances inspired by imaginary authors, obviously, so they're writing their books and things like that. So it's a given that these are how the fragrances are coming these days. It's changed around a bit, but now I think they've kind of like done a great job with the presentation and things like that. Some of my favorite fragrances from imaginary authors happen to be Cobra and the Canary, Saint Julep, Sundrunk, and the Rose one. I'm drawing a blank. I'm kind of excited about the 100,000 subscriber deal. Anyway, there's several that I really enjoy. A City on Fire is one of them, and then there's a few others. So I do like the fragrances from this house, and I see a DNA flowing from one fragrance to the other. So there is definitely a DNA there, and it's definitely noticeable. It's a woody DNA for me, and I feel like the fragrances tend to go woody. Like if you like woods, definitely these are fragrances that you might enjoy. And also, I think it's a resinous wood. There's something slightly chalky, slightly gummy about the base notes, which is where the woods are. So those are kind of prominent features of imaginary authors' fragrances. At least they are to me. That's how I experience them. But I wanted to get back to a whiff of a waffle cone. And a whiff of a waffle cone is apparently a collaboration with an ice cream shop in Portland, Oregon called Salt and Straw. And get this, the price for this one is $65. So is it a special price? Is it a limited edition? I don't know, but it's $65 on the website. in comparison to all their other fragrances, like this one, the second fragrance I'm going to talk to you about, Decisions, is $95 for a 50 ml. So this one's definitely more of a bargain for me. 50 ml bottle, $65 is a great price for indie niche fragrance. And you know, I'm enjoying this one. This is considered an Oriental woody for me. Perfumer, of course, is Josh Meyer. And what we have for notes are vanilla, heavy cream, salted caramel, Amyris, Orgeat, Saigon cinnamon, ice cream, Shoppe. So it's interesting that Imaginary Authors throws in this one unique note at the very end of all the notes listings for you know, their fragrances. And for this particular one, it's ice cream Shoppe. That totally makes sense for me. It does smell like an ice cream shop, and it's especially done for a ice cream shop or a chain called Salt and Straw. So this particular fragrance, as soon as you spray it, it's heaven for me. Really do enjoy that initial blast. It's very, very vanillic. It's creamy, milky, and the salted caramel comes. You know, this is my favorite kind of ice cream to eat. Absolutely love salted caramel ice cream. Here we have Byright Creamery, and they make one of the best, you know, salted caramel ice cream. It's one of my favorites, and it's a very, very addicting flavor. I love that whole slightly smoky, burned caramel and salt combination flavor together. So I immediately really enjoy this one because I like that kind of a smell, you know. It's stuff I enjoy eating. And some people have a problem wearing fragrances that smell like tasty, you know, like gourmands and things like that. I embrace these kind of fragrances. These are some of my very, very favorite fragrances because they're absolutely delicious fragrances and they work with me. I think maybe because I have a sweet tooth and I love sweets. I love pastries, desserts, things like that, and this one definitely works for me. So with this one, you can totally pick out the DNA of Imaginary Authors. In fact, for me, what happens with this fragrance is, first you're experiencing the gourmand notes. Second stage, for me, the DNA of Imaginary Authors comes in, that woodsy experience, the woodsy notes with that slightly chalky and slightly resinous, gummy kind of a woods note. It's very prominent in their vanilla fragrance. If you haven't experienced that one, definitely, I'm drawing a blank with the name again. I'll flash a photo, obviously, but it definitely reminds me of that as a base note. You know, I feel like that fragrance, in parts of that fragrance, is a base note running throughout their multiple fragrances, because it's slightly sweet and vanillic as well. But that's what I experienced, you know, the second part of the fragrance. But when it's dried down, it's back to being a gourmand. It's smooth and creamy, vanillic, caramelly, and you know, it's the fusion of the woods and the caramel and the, you know, the vanilla and all that kind of stuff. So I do enjoy this particular gourmand. It smells authentic to me. It smells like an ice cream shop, but more of an ice cream shop in the woods, you know, because I definitely pick up the Imaginary Authors DNA, and it's all woods and resins and, you know, chalky, gummy kind of a woods experience. So that's what I get with this one. And as far as performance goes, and I don't really like to talk about performance, I feel like all Imaginary Authors fragrances are very, very moderate. None of them are extremely loud. For me, they're not. Because I compare them to my loudest fragrances, and these are not. Some people say they're like extremely loud because they probably haven't really experienced all the loud fragrances, but for me, these are very, very moderate fragrance wearing experiences, which is fine. I think for the price, you get a good quality fragrance. It smells great. It's still woodsy, but it starts out gourmand. For 65 bucks, I think this is definitely worth it. But if you're on the fence, you know, get a sample to test it out to see what it is like. Because from comments I receive, some people say, "Oh, that one smells great," until it becomes too woody on me, things like that. So this one on me definitely goes woody. But as I said, it goes from gourmand to woody, then kind of a blend of the gourmand and woods together at the end, and it smells great. So that's Imaginary Authors, A Whiff of a Waffle Cone, 50 ml, $65. Now, the second fragrance I'm going to talk to you about is Decisions from Imaginary Authors. This one came out after a whiff of a waffle cone. So this is a 50 ml, $95. Again, perfumer is Josh Meyer. I would call this an Oriental floral. Notes are Tuberose, Sarsaparilla, Geranium, Labdanum, Jasmine, Sambac, Raspberry, and Sweet Suspense. So this one actually, for me, seems a little on the slightly edgy side of imaginary authors, and then also the bubblegummy side of imaginary authors. So for me, it seems like more of a risque smell. It's all white flowers, a little. Even though Imaginary Authors is indie, it's an indie brand, you know, it's an indie perfumer. I feel like it goes a little far out to the indie side, but then also reminds me of a very bubblegummy fragrance. So on me, it seems much stronger than other Imaginary Authors fragrances, and I feel like the concentration of oils is pretty intense because the color of the juice, as you can see in comparison to this, look at that, it's much darker. Perhaps it's from the Sarsaparilla, which is sort of like root beer, I think. I'm not too familiar with this particular note, but for me, it does have like a root beery kind of a, I think it's a quality. I think sassafras is root beer and sarsaparilla is a different kind of drink. Anyway, I don't want to get to the technicalities of that note, but feel like it's really, really prominent here, like overly prominent. Overly. So it's tuberose, right? It's tuberose, jasmine, sambac, so it's a white floral fragrance, overdose of white flowers, and an overdose of sarsaparilla, so it's creating a very candied, bubblegummy kind of an effect for me that I like and then I don't like, kind of a thing. So I don't mind white flower fragrances. I mean, I love tuberose, jasmine, all of that stuff is great. But for me, I think the bubblegummy quality gives me, slightly rubs me the wrong way. Because for me, as I was testing it out, I was testing it out, and then I've actually had some, a couple people test it out very distantly, obviously, with masks on. For me, I told them, it reminds me of 80s candy. I don't know where that came from. But maybe because I was eating more candy in the 80s, because I was much younger, and I was eating lots of candy back then. But it reminds me of the smells of candies back in the 80s, at least for me. And you know, currently I don't eat candy, obviously, like kids' candies. But what I smell from relatives pre-pandemic, and kids, relatives' kids, and siblings and things like that. That I don't smell the smell anymore. So there have been some candies that have come and gone, but it really has a very candy-like quality for me, and it's kind of a different fragrance for me in comparison to other Imaginary Authors fragrances. So I wasn't too keen on this particular fragrance. It was not my favorite, and even though I blind bought it, I should have tested it out before. It's not turning out to be my favorite. The other thing about this particular fragrance is it's less Imaginary Authors DNA in comparison to this. Because that sarsaparilla note is so strong, it's overwhelming, it covers up the DNA smell for me, at least not as loud as it is here. So there is that about this particular fragrance, and as I said, it's much stronger. It's like so strong and potent on me. As a smell, performance is still fairly moderate, slightly more performance than a whiff of a waffle cone. But the smell is strong. It's a very, very strong smell, and I would caution you to try test it out if you like the idea of it, because after all, it's a Oriental floral. There are Oriental touches. I think the sarsaparilla acts very in line with the Oriental notes, but I don't see any vanilla listed in here. Labdanum is the only thing, so it's a very, very ambery experience, and I think that's where we get the whole Oriental styling of this particular fragrance. And again, it's not my favorite of Imaginary Authors fragrances, but I think it should have its fans. It's different than others. And again, I don't get the DNA much in this in comparison to other fragrances because it's so strong in comparison to others. Feel like the intensity is there. Not in performance, but as a smell. It's a very, very strong smell for me. Maybe because I'm not a fan of some of the notes, that's what I'm getting with this one, but anyway, it's a little stronger than this particular fragrance or other Imaginary Authors fragrances. And one more thing I want to tell you, there's a tartness about this one, and that the tartness and slight fruitiness, because I don't know if I mentioned there's a fruitiness about it as well, because I was kind of focusing on the candy-like quality and the bubblegummy quality. There is a fruitiness in here, and the fruitiness is reminding me of Violet Disguise, which I'm totally drawing a blank with a lot of names today. This is one of my favorite Imaginary Authors fragrances. I don't think it still sells. I think it's discontinued. And I love the fruitiness in here. It's violets with a few other notes, but what's going on with this one is tart and a little sour, which I like that about this particular fragrance. But here I get the tart sourness and the fruitiness. The other note is in here is plum. It's a plum and violet combo. So this is fruity, and there is fruitiness in here, and so it reminds me of this a little bit. Not a lot, just a little bit, and I wanted to point that out since you guys might be fans of this and it's no longer available. At least I was told it was discontinued, but I'm not 100% sure. Either way, Decisions didn't turn out to be my favorite fragrance from Imaginary Authors, but a whiff of the waffle cone, I'm really enjoying it. And if you guys like gourmands, woodsy gourmands, definitely put your nose on a whiff of a waffle cone. So those are my thoughts on these two new fragrances from Imaginary Authors line of fragrances. If you don't know about this house, I do have multiple videos on the channel. I have a top 15 Imaginary Authors fragrances video. I also have videos with Josh Meyer, multiple videos, so go check those out. And again, go catch the previous video from today. Thanks again for 100,000 subscribers. It took a long time to get here, even after starting a second channel and starting all over. Finally, it's here, and as I said, I do have 10 giveaways on the previous video, and they are worldwide giveaways, so go find out all about that giveaway and watch that video as well. Either way, if you have any questions or comments about Imaginary Authors, please do let me know. Have you tried these two fragrances, A Whiff of a Waffle Cone and Decisions, and what are your thoughts about them? And what are your favorite Imaginary Authors fragrances? Please put some comments down so that I can find out. Other than that, guys, thanks so much for watching today's video. Please do like this video. Please share it. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Have a good one. Goodbye.